The Grand Blackwood Hotel stood tall against the storm clouds. Lightning flashed, thunder roared. The night was alive with the fury of the storm, as if nature itself was warning against the secrets held within its walls. The hotel, with its Gothic architecture, seemed to defy the elements, standing as a silent sentinel amidst the chaos. It was once a beacon of luxury. Now it was a shadow of its former glory. The grand chandeliers that once sparkled with opulence now hung lifeless, covered in dust and cobwebs. The marble floors, once polished to a mirror finish, were now cracked and stained. The echoes of laughter and music that once filled the grand ballroom were replaced by an eerie silence. The hotel had a dark history. Guests whispered of Room 13. It was said that those who stayed in Room 13 never left the same. Some claimed to hear whispers in the dead of night, while others spoke of ghostly apparitions that roamed the halls. The door to Room 13, with its tarnished brass number, seemed to hold a sinister presence, daring anyone to enter. It was a place of fear, a place of dread. The walls seemed to close in, and the shadows danced with a life of their own. The air was thick with an unspoken terror, as if the very essence of the hotel was alive and watching. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights, added to the growing sense of unease. The hotel was shrouded in unsettling silence. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and decay. The once grand lobby, with its decaying wood interior and damp walls, stood as a testament to the passage of time. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional drip of water from a leaky ceiling. It was as if the hotel itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The silence was broken only by the howling wind outside. It seemed to whisper secrets, ancient and terrifying secrets. The wind, as it blew through the dark trees and around the eerie hotel, carried with it the voices of the past. It was as if the very air was alive with the memories of those who had come before and the horrors they had faced. The Grand Blackwood Hotel was not just a building. It was a living, breathing entity, filled with the echoes of its dark and mysterious past. Emily shivered. The cold air seemed to seep through her skin, chilling her to the bone. She glanced around, her eyes darting from shadow to shadow, as if expecting something to leap out at her. She hugged her coat closer, trying to find some warmth and comfort in its familiar fabric. The coat was her shield against the unknown, a small barrier between her and the eerie surroundings. The hotel lobby was dimly lit, casting long, ominous shadows on the walls. Cobwebs clung to the ornate chandeliers, swaying slightly as if moved by an unseen breeze. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. Dust lay heavy on the once grand furniture, now faded and forgotten. Each piece seemed to tell a story of better days, now lost to time. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the old building settling. It felt cold, empty, unwelcoming. The kind of place that seemed to repel visitors rather than invite them in. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that the walls themselves had eyes. Room 13, you said? The receptionist's voice was raspy, like the sound of dry leaves rustling in the wind. His eyes, dark and hollow, seemed to pierce through her. He looked at Emily with tired eyes, eyes that had seen too much and revealed too little. There was something unsettling about his gaze, something that made her want to look away, but she couldn't. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. She tried to smile, but it felt forced and unnatural. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in the silent lobby. "Yes," Emily replied, "just for one night." Her voice sounded small and uncertain, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the lobby. She hoped it would be enough to convince herself as much as the receptionist. The receptionist handed her a heavy, tarnished key. "Sleep well," he croaked, his voice dripping with a sinister undertone. The key felt cold and unwelcoming in her hand, much like the hotel itself. Emily wasn't sure she would. The weight of the key seemed to symbolize the burden of her decision to stay. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead, and headed towards the staircase, each step echoing in the desolate lobby. The hallway to room 13 was long and narrow. The carpet was threadbare, the wallpaper peeled at the seams. Emily felt a chill as she walked. It wasn't just the cold. She reached room 13. The door creaked open as if it hadn't been touched in years. The room was dark and musty. A single lamp cast long, eerie shadows. In the corner stood a large, ornately framed mirror. Emily felt an immediate unease. Emily tried to ignore the mirror. She unpacked her bag, but her eyes kept being drawn back to it. The mirror seemed to shimmer. Its reflection wavered, as if it wasn't reflecting the room at all. She went closer. Her heart pounded. The reflection in the mirror wasn't her own. A face stared back at her, pale, gaunt, with eyes filled with a deep, unsettling sadness. Emily gasped and stumbled back. The face in the mirror vanished. Section 5. Whispers from the Abyss. Emily tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw the face from the mirror. Whispers seemed to come from the mirror. Soft, unintelligible. They sent shivers down her spine. She got out of bed. She had to leave the room, but as she reached for the door handle, it turned ice cold. The door wouldn't budge. Emily was trapped. Section 6. Trapped. Panic welled up inside Emily. She ran to the window, but it was nailed shut. She was a prisoner in her own room. The whispers from the mirror grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, the mirror began to glow. A cold white light emanated from its surface. Emily shielded her eyes. She couldn't look away. She felt herself being pulled toward the mirror, powerless to resist. Section 7. A ghastly discovery. The next morning, the maid entered room 13. She gasped. The room was empty. Emily's belongings were gone. The only sign that anyone had stayed there was a single suitcase lying open on the floor. She noticed the mirror. It shimmered faintly. The maid shuddered. She knew the stories about room 13. She backed away slowly, never taking her eyes off the mirror. Section 8. The Legend of Room 13. The legend of Room 13 had haunted the Grand Blackwood Hotel for decades. It was said that the mirror in the room was cursed. It was a portal, a gateway to somewhere dark and terrible. Guests who stayed in room 13 often reported strange occurrences, whispers, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. But the mirror was the most terrifying aspect of the room. Section 9. Forever Lost. Some guests claim to have seen things in the mirror, flashes of other times, other places, and sometimes faces, pale lost souls trapped within its depths. It was said that the mirror fed on the life force of those who stayed in room 13. Emily was just the latest victim, drawn into the mirror's depths, lost forever in its shadowy reflection. No one ever dared to stay in room 13 for more than one night. But the story of room 13 goes back much further. Decades ago, the hotel was a bustling place, filled with laughter and life. However, everything changed when a mysterious mirror was brought into the hotel. It was an antique with an ornate frame that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. The first incident occurred when a maid cleaning room 13 vanished without a trace. Her disappearance was the beginning of the room's dark legend. Guests who stayed in room 13 reported strange occurrences. They would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling an icy chill, and see fleeting images in the mirror. Some saw scenes from their past, while others glimpsed eerie visions of the future. The most unsettling were the faces, ghostly apparitions that seemed to be calling out for help. Emily, a curious traveler, had heard the rumors but dismissed them as mere stories. She checked into room 13, determined to prove the legends wrong. That night she felt an inexplicable pull towards the mirror. As she gazed into its depths, she saw not her reflection, but a shadowy figure reaching out to her. Before she could react, she was drawn into the mirror, her screams echoing in the empty room. The hotel staff found her belongings the next morning, but Emily was gone. The mirror, however, seemed to glow with a sinister light, as if it had claimed another soul. The room was sealed off, but the legend of room 13 continued to haunt the hotel. To this day, no one dares to stay in room 13 for fear of becoming the next victim of the mirror's insatiable hunger. Section 10. The Mirror Remains. The Grand Blackwood Hotel still stands today, a shadow of its former grandeur. Room 13 remains locked, sealed off from the rest of the hotel, but the mirror still hangs on the wall, waiting, watching. And sometimes when the wind howls through the old building, those who dare to listen can still hear whispers coming from room 13. Whispers that seem to come from the mirror itself. Whispers that send shivers down the spine.